Hello, everyone. Apparently, we are live on Facebook.
It's true. It's
Hi,
true. We're live. We're live.
how are you, Miss Vivi?
I am fabulous. I just realised I didn't even really think about it this morning, but I'm in pink.
Woo! And you've got your little pink ladies' lounge
Yeah.
tiara on too.
If I sit there, you can see the tiara. So I just have to sit really still, otherwise you'll know it's fake.
Exactly.
How's
Very
Tiffany?
good. What's that?
How's Tiffany?
I'm good. I'm really good. Yes, my body's been going through a few changes, but I'm back on track. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so it seems a few people are going through changes at the moment. So if anybody is watching this, that you've had a bit of stuff up in your world recently or stuff going on with your body, what kindness can you be? And if you don't come to conclusion about what it is, and you just ask your body, hey, sweet body, what is it you require right now? It might just let you know.
Indeed. I see we've got, hi Christine, we've got a couple of people starting to join us. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Viv and I are just going to have a little bit of a play with Gary Douglas's new book, The Lady, which is an amazing contribution and a wonderful book and a wonderful possibility. So we just wanted to jump on and have a quick chat and share a little bit about it with you. Do you want to actually read the back bit, Viv? Because that's wonderful too.
I just, whenever I read anything that Gary's written, his succinctness and his brilliance with using, like, he only uses words that he needs to. There's no fluff, there's no padding, there's no filling. And for me, I just actually bought this up. I'm at a friend's house today and I just bought this up for her. And she goes, oh, it's thinner than the other books. And I said, it's really meaty. It is. It is really meaty. I mean, it's got, where are we? Maybe 80 odd pages, 80, 90 pages. But Gary is so brilliant with his succinctness of just being so congruent, beautifully, energetically, elegantly congruent with the words he uses. So it's a very meaty book. So I will read you the back.
Well, that I was just going to say quickly about that. It's like it's kind of very much a lady. It has this elegance and slightness to it. Not that that has to, be the way a lady looks, obviously, but just so much possibility and so much available and so much content, but all the different ways that we can choose to be in a very different way. So it's very exciting.
Thank you. You've just, because Gary, when he first talked about this book and announced the book, I can't remember the exact words, but he said, basically this is for gents as well. He basically addressed the men and said, well, are you a lady too? And you can imagine what that does to most men's brains or most women's brains. I'm like, what does he mean by that? Because he never says anything by accident. And just given me, there's an elegance, there's an ease, there's a graciousness, there's a kindness that goes with that. So thank you for that awareness. So are we sitting comfortably? So are you a lady or a woman? The lady is about a kind, elegant, playful, and very powerful way of being in the world that extends to all aspects of life, from business, money, and parenting to flirtation, seduction, and sex. A lady is a source of power that creates possibility. She chooses to be everything that she is without being defined by what others think she should be. She knows what she desires and how to get it. She leads without controlling. She never has to compete with anyone. This book is about fully receiving and enjoying the beauty, power, fun, and excitement of who you are. It describes a way of being that welcomes men and women to be kind, understanding, and knowledgeable about the world and how to navigate it. A lady is always an inspiration to others just by knowing who he or she is.
Wonderful. I love that. I love that so much. And with our creation, the Ladies Lounge, it's very inclusive, and men are always welcome to everything that we're doing here as well. So I love that.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that I just when you ask the question, the awareness pops up. You never know which angle and where it's going to come from and through which vehicle. But, you know, like I just said to Tiff, you know, there was a comment that Gary made, and it's this: a lady is always an inspiration to others just by knowing who he or she is. So my desire, I don't know if I've ever expressed this, but my desire with our adventure with the Ladies Lounge, Candid Conscious Conversations, is just to let people, or to be the inspiration, or open the doors, or give them the tools to know who they be. You know, that we don't have to try and pretend to be anything. We don't have to compete. We don't have to get stuck in roles. We don't have to be who we're not truly being. And when we're not truly being who we are, things don't work. Have you ever noticed they get a bit clunky, or you just get frustrated? And yet when you're around some really good friends, or you're just out in nature, there's just this ease and that just the fluidity. So that's my 2 minutes on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the other thing with that too is I remember when, you know, the gents were doing, they were going to do a 3-part series, and they spoke to Gary and asked him for a title idea for it. And the title he gave them was Gentlemen Prefer Women, Prefer Ladies. And just the stuff that came up in so many females universes when we started to kind of when the boys started to get that out there was huge. And including me too. I was like, oh my God, I'm not enough lady. I don't do this and I don't do that. And I should wear nail polish more often. And, you know, it's interesting because in a way it's giving you, this book, The Lady, is giving you an awareness of a way of being, which is actually more about undefining, that is about defining you as something. And I know, you know, when you say, you know, being yourself or being you, I mean, I remember when I started to go to Access Consciousness classes, and Gary would ask that question, you know, something around, you know, who you are. And I'd be like, I kind of have no clue. So there's sort of unpacking, largely to start to undo us from all the things that we've taken on, perhaps that aren't us, and then kind of a process of getting to know yourself, you know. And when I first started to read this book, there's just this sense of like, oh, so many of these elements that he's talking about feels so much more like me than a lot of other things, and has allowed me to acknowledge myself in a way that, has just been such a gift. So,
and it's just this, every day is an adventure. You know, if you're truly willing to have the joy of living and exploring and adventuring and navigating, it is the most incredible journey that you go on. And yeah, it has a few bumps, but it has incredible, you know, joy when you get to access that part of you. And like you say, Tiff, when you acknowledge, wow, you know what, there are so many areas of my life that are working. There are so many areas of my life I am being me. And we don't even know when we're being me. This is the kind of twist with this. It's like, how do you know when you're being you? And we do go into those definitions, and we try and fit in, and we try and play certain roles, and we put on different characters and costumes going, does this work? Will that fit? Will that make it work? And it still never feels totally you. You know when you're not being authentic. You know when you're trying to pretend or prove or compete, or because it feels weird. It goes funky in your world. So this is such, I've read this book a couple of times now, and it's just the most, it's just a beautiful, beautiful journey for me personally to go through this, not just with myself, but with clients and with Tiff. And we have some amazing conversations. And we'd love to invite you along on this journey with us if it's something that speaks to you, if it's something that would be a contribution to your world.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to just, sorry, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, should we read a little bit of the beginning of the book and share a bit of that, which is, I think, pretty sure exactly what you're about to start doing, right?
You're Tiffany Brennan.
Can you imagine?
So what is a lady? Some people consider it disrespectful, condescending, or even offensive to refer to an adult female as a lady. For them, the word lady is a term for someone who has little intelligence, power, or presence in the world. They see a lady as a creature who is insignificant, inconsequential, and powerless. But for much of our history, a lady has been a noble woman of strong character. She has been someone who owned property and governed her family, who had power and authority over others. Ladies have been women of high social standing or authority. They have been viewed as elegant, dignified, well-mannered, and worthy of respect and devotion. It used to be that a lady was a woman, but not all women were ladies. Ladies of old had a completely different way of being in the world. They always knew who they were and that they were in charge, but they also knew how to receive and didn't feel they needed to emasculate men or prove that they were equal to or better than men. Consider these definitions from Noah Webster's 1818 dictionary that offer a different way of looking at what it means to be a lady. A woman having proprietary rights or authority, especially as a feudal superior, whatever feudal superior is, feudal, superior. A woman receiving the homage or devotion of a knight or lover. A woman of superior social position, a woman of refinement and gentle manners, a female often used in a courteous reference as show the lady to a seat. And this one really tickled me, a wife or mistress. A mistress in this sense is a woman who governs. She is the female head of a family. Being a lady is about choosing to be everything you are. It is knowing who you are and being grateful for that. You are who you are without being defined by what other people think you should be. You don't have the point of view that you have to be like anyone else. Boom.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, it's beautiful for what I was talking about before, the places where, you know, we think we have to define ourselves or be a certain way to fit in or whatever. And it's like, that's what the invitation here is to not have that, and to show up as you show up, and have an honoring and a gratitude and a kindness towards yourself, allowing you to show up as you show up, you know, without judgment. And, you know, I mean, we talk about this judgment thing a lot, and we'll talk about it a whole lot more as well, because it's like, if you can give yourself the gift of not having judgment in your world, it's just like, wow, so many more possibilities open to you. And there's a relaxation, the elegance and the relaxation, the invitation to that with this book is just, yeah, it's such a lovely gift.
And even the front picture, you know, I love, for me, I love the 50s era. It was just, for me, that was the quintessential, just the clothing that they wore. I mean, some people relate to certain eras and some don't, but even just the cover of this book, that skirt, it's just beautiful, you know, and how she's just got her feet together, and it's just scrummy. I think it's just scrummy. And see what it says there, being what always wins.
Yeah.
But not from competition. It's like there's this way of creating what you desire to have and receiving it where there's no force, there's no pushing, there's no fight, there's no demand, there's no just that really aggressive energy, which I think a lot of women stepped into. Like Gary talks about how women changed through the decades, and how when women's lib came along, he said, in his opinion, it was one of the most destructive things for ladies, because all of a sudden, prior to that, they could stay at home and have a beautiful man look after them, and they could have their ladies' lunches and go and get their hair done and contribute to the man in the household, where it was this incredible communion where the relationship was honoring of each other. But then when we went through this women's lib, it was right, men are keeping us down and we have to fight for our rights. And it was just what happened. You know, we lost that beautiful honoring of the men and the gents in our world. And we also kind of, I don't know whether we disconnected or destroyed or disdained that part of us that is our natural way of being as a woman. And it is a choice to be a lady.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I love about again, this invitation. It's always an invitation. It's never a must. But it, is now the time to start to invite that possibility back. And it's happening. You see it happening in different ways around the place, and the way certain groups of people, men, for example, are starting to dress differently and dress more like gentlemen and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, kind of a cool thing to do these days. So, and that's the look of it. And now it's like, what if we start to explore the being, the invitation to being what's on offer here. And it's funny because we are having this gentleman and lady conversation, and a lot of these elements of when I was reading through the first part of this book and realizing, that actually feels a lot like me. It's my father that actually sort of showed me these things and taught me these things, and then my partner, who as an older woman, Saul taught me about vulnerability in a way that nobody else has, and allowed me to expand into a space of vulnerability that I've never ever known before, or never been allowed to have before, or felt that I was allowed to have.
Yeah, and that thank you for speaking to the vulnerability too, Tiff, because that, when you first broached that conversation with women, they're terrified. It's like, I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to get taken advantage of, they'll walk all over me, they'll treat me like crap. There's this, the vulnerability in this reality often has this bad rap. It's so misapplied and misidentified, whereas what Tiff was just referring to there is such a power and potency and gentleness that comes with that vulnerability. It doesn't mean that you're going to get taken advantage of. That vulnerability allows you to have access to trusting you, trusting that trusting that what you're capable of creating can actually actualize. But if we don't have that vulnerability, we're always in this defense mode and preparing to be attacked, or we're on guard. And that takes, like you say, it's exhausting to keep that defense up and to keep the distance and to keep the barriers in place. And it creates separation. It creates the antithesis of what we truly desire as a being. So, for me, and just reading this book, I love talking with you, Tiff. You just ping so many awarenesses for me. Reading this book, it's a facilitation in itself. You transform just by receiving the book, reading the words, allowing yourself, talking about being vulnerable, to actually receive the reach that this book can have into your world, and the elegance, the ease, the needlessness, the potency that you have available to you. So we're going to be doing a book reading. Do you want to talk a bit more about that, Tiff? I'm just going to put that up again.
Yeah, so pretty. Yeah, so Viv and I are going to be doing a book reading soon. It's going to be a free offering, and we'll let you know more about it when we know dates and times and that sort of thing. But it's just where we'll come together and read the book together. So Viv and I will read it to you, and just have some fun and just enjoy it together. I know personally that I prefer an audiobook generally to reading a book, because I've always got so much going on. But if I have somewhere I can come and I know it's on at a certain time and I can do it with other people, I really love that as well. So we'd like to offer that and invite you guys to that as well. Of course, men and ladies and gents are very welcome. So Jodie's saying, yes, please. And I see we've got a couple of comments here. So Estella's saying, I see the irony of how we've gone full circle, where staying at home is more acceptable these days, where we're not wrong for wanting to be a lady. Yeah, exactly. And we can have, that as well as, being, Viv and I have done a book club about a year ago on Salon de Femme, which is the other book that Gary Douglas has written. And, we can have that, and we can also have the ability to be doing, amazing things in the world, and creating businesses and being mothers, and, cooking while on meetings, and, all of these different things that we have the capacity for. And, I think this lady book is having all of those things and having more of an elegance with that as well. It's like how much do we as you know, those women who are ready and available and willing and capable of, you know, conquering the world, how much do we often stop ourselves from receiving, you know, receiving contribution from other people, from other women, from other men, from, you know, even people who want to, for example, be part of our businesses. And I laugh because we're both guilty of that, and trying to work through that, you know, and facilitate each other in working through that as well. So yeah.
And just one last thing I'd like to add to that too, Tiff. I mean, as women, you know, we do know that women can be highly competitive. They can be very, you know, they can be very backstabby and whatever else. And it's just, for me, it's like there's this abrasiveness. And I've had so many women come and see me as clients and go, or in classes and go, he doesn't listen to me, and why isn't he giving me what I want? And they've just got this really, what would make you think he even would want to come near you being like that?
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, the expectation, it's like, but he's the man and he should do this and he should do that. There's this, you're actually repelling the very thing that you're asking for. And you think that by being, you know, bossy or demanding or just cranky will get you what you want. And a friend of mine said to me years ago, look, you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. And I always remembered that, because you hear people interact all the time and there's this just abrasiveness between people rather than knowing how to genuinely ask. And it requires the level of vulnerability to ask with no expectation of having that ask fulfilled. Because The Elegance of Needlessness, which was the name of Gary's, I think it was a 9-part telecourse that this book is from, was called The Lady, The Elegance of Needless. And it's like, what if you allowed yourself to explore, what if I was needless? You know, what if I was needless? What would that be like for me? Because it's one of those words like receiving, you just don't, it's not even in your vocabulary these days unless you've been around access for a little while.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I mean, I think that's maybe a great question to leave everyone with today is like, you know, where, you know, what have you decided that you need? And just to look at those things, you know, it's like a need of money, a need of, you know, someone to love you, a need of, you know, how many needs do you have in your life that if you are able to move into a space of needlessness would actually open the door to something very different and more elegant as your life being available.
And Gary's description of elegance is minimum effort, maximum result. And if ever there is a walking, talking elegance being, it's Mr. Gary Douglas. Yeah. Minimum effort, maximum result. So thank you so much, Tiff.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, Viv.
Thank you for everybody joining us and watching later from the Ladies' Lounge.
Lots of love.
Bye, Tiff.
Bye.